Presentation.
There we go. You're
It's
good
good.
to go.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for our weekly or now monthly call for community solutions hosted by the Forbes Funds and GPNP. Our goals and objectives have switched for this time a little bit in 2026 because in the past, I know we had a really great system that was born in March of 2020, providing weekly resources and updates. And over the course of 2026, we've been working on reframing our engagements. And so moving to a monthly call for community solutions that highlights two organizations in our network that are doing extremely complementary work with each other, as well as having kind of a monthly theme. So with Women's Day, we're so excited to have the Women and Girls Foundation and Girls Inc. join us this morning. Our second shift is also having a focus on information into action. I think our previous format of the calls for community solutions did a really great job of, what's happening in the ecosystem, what are some things to keep in mind, what's kind of the pulse on the sector. And also, in an effort to increase collaboration and reduce working alone and build relationships, our goal is to make sure that we're using this time intentionally to accelerate referrals, partnerships, and advocacy. So, in order to maximize the call this morning, please use the chat to add any questions. Please, before you do that, add your name and organization to the chat so we know who's joining us today. And think actively as our presenters are speaking about how you can emulate or apply some of the things that they're thinking about, or even get involved or partner if there's alignments in your programming. Please feel free to share what you're seeing in your organization or community, whether that's a best practice, a quick connection, or referral to someone. And then if you have a resource, we're building out our schedule for the remainder of the year. So please drop it in the chat. We'll compile and send to folks as a follow-up. Preeti has been on that since January, since these calls started. And I think one of the things that I really enjoy to anchor these conversations is starting with what's true and then moving to what's possible, because we're inundated with information at this point in 2026. And so rather than focusing on all of the things that are happening in the ecosystem and all the things that we might have to respond to or that might impact us, naming what's true, naming what's present in the community that's so supportive on these calls, and then moving to what's possible together. With that, if you're in a space to turn on your camera, please do so and drop your name and organization in the chat. We'll be launching a poll at the end of the call and during a brief policy update following the speakers. As a reminder, our frameworks include the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the social determinants of health, and the 8 returns on investment. We like to think of the Sustainable Development Goals and the social determinants as the what of our work, making sure that we're using similar language across the sector to think about success and what in the business community we would refer to as KPIs. Are we aligned in terms of the work that we're trying to achieve? What is the definition, for example, of reducing inequality? How are we measuring that across organizations? And then the 8 R's are a framework that I like to think of as the how of the work, especially with the advocacy work of GPNP. It's often relationships and equity and sustainability that actually moves the needle on so many of our policy changes that allow a return on policy. And so keeping track of, what sticks, what really resonates, and what keeps our trajectory and traction moving forward, the 8 R's have been that framework for the Forbes funds. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speakers for this morning. First, Camilla Rivera Tinsley is CEO of Women and Girls Foundation. She's been an advocate and champion of people and the environment for most of her life. Before becoming CEO of the Women and Girls Foundation, she served as the Director of Education for the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, where she also helmed the Frick Environmental Center, the first publicly owned living building in the United States. Before that, she worked for 14 years as a program steward and mentor to hundreds of students and early career professionals at the Schuley Center for Environmental Education. She also helped establish an environmental nonprofit focused on serving people of color and used her voice to amplify the concerns of underserved populations. With an extensive background in advocacy, environmental education, horticulture, permaculture, and urban agriculture, Rivera Tinsley serves on numerous boards and coalitions. Camilla's 20-year history of serving her community through her profession, volunteer work, and as advisor to environmental organizations of color has deepened her passion for providing opportunities to all people to connect their personal power. I'm so sorry. You can hear my dog jumping around in the background. Her true motivation is to create a more verdant and inclusive future for her 21-year-old daughter. Next up, we'll have Kiana McGowan, who is the programs director at Girls Inc. Pittsburgh. Kiana is a mission-driven youth development leader and director of programs dedicated to empowering girls to be strong, smart, and bold. With lived experience in the child welfare system and years of mentoring and leadership experience, Kiana brings both professional expertise and personal insight to her work. She specializes in curriculum development, mentor training, and strengthening multi-generational mentoring programs that expose girls to college, career pathways, and leadership opportunities. Passionate about advocacy, equity, and creating safe spaces for girls to thrive, Kiana is committed to helping the next generation recognize their power and walk confidently in it. We are so excited to have you both join us this morning. And with that, I will turn it over to Camilla to get started.
Thank you for being patient with me this morning as I navigate tech, which I'm not that great at, as you can already see. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No worries. If you go to slideshow up in the top right next to share, it's the little white button next to the dolphin, the anonymous dolphin. There you
Okay, is
go.
this working for everyone?
That works.
Okay, great. Sorry, I always have too many tabs open. Good morning. My name is Camilla Rivera Tinsley, and I am the CEO or Executive Director of the Women and Girls Foundation. It's my pleasure to be here. Emily, thank you so much for sharing those wonderful and extensive words about me. Um, what is the Women and Girls Foundation? The Women and Girls Foundation is a small nonprofit that works to close equity gaps by advancing gender justice and civic engagement, particularly for girls, femmes, and gender expansive youth that are most impacted by systemic inequities. GirlGov is WGF's flagship youth civic leadership program, and it has two sections, GirlGov Middle School and GirlGov High School. GirlGov Middle School is a newer program that started with my coming into the organization, and it specifically focuses on girls of color and underrepresented youth, and really works to make sure that those students are becoming informed, engaged citizens through education, exposure, and community. So WGF, the mission is to achieve equality or really achieve equity for women and girls now and for generations to come. And in pursuit of this mission, WGF breaks down barriers so that every girl can rise and every woman can soar. And our vision is for women and girls in Pennsylvania to have equal access, opportunity, and influence in all aspects of their public and private lives. Some of our core values. So, we believe that when women and girls thrive, communities prosper. We seek equity for all women without discrimination on the basis of nationality, economic status, class, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, or status. A huge portion of what we do or what informs all of our work is not just having direct programming, but also really trying to affect systems change. And our programs and initiatives drive statewide solutions to the problems of gender inequity. Empowering girls as well as women is central to our mission, and we engage young women as donors, activists, and leaders. We also engage men as allies, partners, and champions for gender equity because we believe it's vital for our mission success. So a brief history of WGF. So WGF is about 25 years old. It was started by a group of concerned women in the region. And what they noticed is they noticed that there were not a lot of women that were serving on boards, and there were not a lot of women that were in spaces of leadership. There was also not a lot of women that were running for office or holding office. So back in those days, if you looked at all of the 50 states, here in Pennsylvania, the amount of women that were serving in these places of power, we were in the bottom third of all of the 50 states. We've now sort of moved into that middle space. And so that sort of reflects the impact that WGF and many other women serving organizations have had in this region. Um, when we talk about systems change and why WGF is so important, uh, the what we believe is that women, girls, femmes, gender expansive individuals anyone that is actually fighting for their rights or is in a space where they don't have equal rights to everyone, the only way that we can actually really ensure that folks do get their equal rights is to make sure that they are in spaces of power. Our Girl Gov program seeks to enrich young women and young gender expansive individuals so that they can get to the space where they believe that they have power, and then we give them these opportunities to actually express that. One of the things that WGF started on was the Abercrombie and Fitch Girl Cot. And so that was really pivotal to the organization. That was in 2005. Our students created this huge boycott. It got national recognition and really launched WGF and Girl Gov onto that national stage. It's really interesting to think about now in 2026. The same sort of issues are rising up in our social conversations, which with Abercrombie and Fitch still being at the center of controversy with the jeans sort of campaign, the ad campaign that went on. And so that's something interesting to reflect back on. I've been with the organization since 2022. And one of the things that I did in the organization was I recognized that we needed to be able to impact more students and particularly impact more students of color. And one of the vehicles to do that for me was adding the addition of Girl Gov Middle School. So, Women and Girls Foundation, a lot of folks know us through our youth program. So, Girl Gov is out there in the world, but we're not just a youth serving organization. Like I said, we're really focused on systems change and we're focused on advocacy for adults as well as young people. We just believe that starting as young as possible is going to build those civics engagement muscles so that when young people become adults, they feel more trust in the democratic process, more trust in the fact that they're able to affect change. And how do we demonstrate that? They're going to register to vote. They are going to understand that civics is not just understanding local and state government, but also thinking about what our role as citizens is within our community. And we reinforce that through all of our programming. And with GirlGov, we don't just talk about local and state government, we also provide our young students with the opportunity to give back in a meaningful way. And I'll get more into that as we go along. And I also just want to shout out that my colleague, is on the line here, or she's joining us. And if there are questions about GirlGov, Emily, if you want to add some things about GirlGov, please jump in. You are much better suited to talk about what happens on the day-to-day programming than I am. So at any time, just raise your hand and I will tag you in. So we focus on three buckets with the Women and Girls Foundation: advocacy and policy education, youth civics education, and grassroots grant making when we have a robust budget. Right now, our budget is not as robust, and so our grant making is a bit on pause for this year, but we're hoping to get back to that. A little bit about our advocacy and education. So we work with organizations across the state. So while we're here in Allegheny County, our reach is really statewide, and part of our mission is to change things at the state level. Something that we put a lot of effort into is the paid family and medical leave insurance legislation for Pennsylvania. That's something that we've been working on for over a decade. The CEO before me, she was actually the first person to put that bill language together. And it actually takes a long time to turn a bill into a law here in Pennsylvania, particularly because we are a purple state. And that is something that I've been learning and really grappling with in this position. So right now, we do focus on paid family and medical leave, but we're also looking for smaller, sort of smaller incremental bills that can lead up to family and medical leave as a way to get those wins. That's something that we also realize with our young people. So in the Girl Gov program, they are also focusing on advocacy campaigns, but we've adjusted the way that we do our education over time because we recognize that, as I said, here in Pennsylvania, it takes a long time to go from a bill to a law, and we want our young people to have success and to feel success. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the Girl Gov education programming. So with paid family and medical leave, the reason why we focus on that particular piece of legislation is because when we look at all of the issues that are impacting women and femmes, both here in Pennsylvania, nationally and globally, something that unites the success across all countries and across every space is when you look at countries that have had a female president, which we know that United States has not have, and we look at countries that really have a strong pathway for women to join leadership positions. Really, what they are offering is they are offering a comprehensive paid leave program. So, just to talk a little bit about what that is, paid leave is more than just having a couple of weeks off after you give birth or having a couple of weeks to yourself for a medical issue. It's really making sure that not only do you have those weeks off, but that those are paid weeks and that they actually go up to, I think right now we're at 27 weeks is what we're advocating for, but we're advocating for a much more robust leave program. So that's going to impact women systemically by allowing them to be able to take the time off to take care of their families. Women are in a particular, because of our social construct here in the United States, we tend to be more of the caregivers. So we're taking care of young children. We're also taking care of older adults. And so someone like me who's in that middle-age time period, I'm looking to take care of my daughter who's just turned 21, so or is about to turn 21, so yay for that. And also thinking about parents who are aging and getting really sick. And those responsibilities tend to fall on women or tend to fall on femme identifying individuals. And because of that, when we look at statistics, women are disengaging from the workplace. And in particular, since COVID, Black women have really disengaged from the workplace. And so we either lost our jobs or we stepped away from the workplace. And now, here in 2026, we can see that in Pennsylvania that we are not able to be employed again. And so long term, this means that women are going to get less supports because when it comes time to retire, when we're in our late 60s, early 70s, maybe now they'll say 80, I don't know. But we are retiring with way less access to wealth because if we step away from having those formalized jobs, then we're not paying into Social Security. And so that's something that's really, really going to impact Pennsylvania in the coming years. We are one of the fastest aging states in the union. We're in the top five. And women are living longer than men. So even if you are in a partnership with a man or you're in a partnership with someone else, you will find yourself, if you identify as a woman, you'll find yourself really, really economically impacted at an older age. And I think I've gone off the rails here and talking about paid family and medical leave, but it's really, really, really important that we are able to focus on these types of policies that are going to systemically change the way the United States works to make it more equitable for women and to make it more equitable for women of color. This also has the ability to impact, we talk a lot in our coalitions in this gender equity work about Black maternal health. And when Black women have the ability to be able to take off and take care of themselves, there's going to be better outcomes for those mothers, and there's going to also be better outcomes for young children. So these are all of the reasons why we really, really care about paid family and medical leave and advocating for that. Not only do we advocate for that, but we also focus on digital advocacy and education. And we support many other efforts led by other coalitions in the state and also locally on related and following issues. So we focus on anti-discrimination work policies and economic justice through the pay equity campaign. We really focus on reproductive rights and racial and gender justice. We're focused on increasing women in leadership, including women on boards and women in politics. We are focused on efforts to decrease sexual assault and domestic violence. And we're also really focused on civics education in Pennsylvania. So not only do we have the Girl Gov program, which is a direct program for young people, but how do we change the way civics education education is administered across the state. So something that folks don't really realize is that at the state level and the Department of Education, we've got all of these standards that are going to be shared by teachers across the state. And that's really wonderful because it helps to sort of get towards that equity piece. We really want there to be laws that are saying, like, hey, by this time, students should be exposed to this. By this time, they should have these types of experiences. And when we look at civics education, it actually hasn't been reviewed and upgraded and revamped since the late 80s. Previous to this position, I was working in environmental education, and in my own career in environmental education, the PA state standards had been reviewed more than two times. And that's really, really telling. So when we think about democracy, we think about civics, especially in the backdrop of what's happening all around us right now. We really, really want to make sure that people are engaged, and we want to make sure that they're engaged as young as possible and that they have a solid educational background and framework that everybody is sharing. But right now, when we look at statistics and we look at sort of that geographical distribution of education and quality education, what we see is that what we see generally speaking is that folks that are in more wealthy areas, they have better education programs, there is better voter engagement, better voter turnout. And we at the Women and Girls Foundation believe that all of those things are linked. So not only are we doing direct programming, but we are also in a coalition of other organizations that are challenging our state legislators to really invest in civics education and to make some changes to the way that civics education is disseminated across the state. So civics education, I was just talking about that. It's a huge portion of what we do. Our Girl Gov is our flagship youth program that has two sections, Girl Gov Middle School, Girl Gov High School. Middle school really focuses on supporting students of color and students in underrepresented spaces, and that also includes rural students. The reason we're so focused on that in the middle school space is that when I had stepped into the organization, there's often a lot of things that are changing. So we went from a founder to a new leader. And because of those changes, I recognized that the Girl Gov High School program had gotten a little bit more homogenous than I would want as a leader. And so starting that middle school program was really a vehicle to create long-term change within our program. So we want all students to have high quality programming, but we wanted to see more representation of students from across all neighborhoods, across all financial sort of strata, being able to participate in something like Girl Gov because it is a totally free program. We bring these young people to Harrisburg, and part of our theory of change says, if we're investing in these young people, then they feel like they can make change, and then long term they're going to invest in their own communities. And so if we look at the communities that are really challenged, we want to focus on those in terms of investing in that youth programming. So Girl Gov just underwent an evaluation project. We were specifically focusing on our middle school program, because that's very new. And in this moment, I'm actually going to stop talking, and I wonder if Emily would like to jump in and, whoops, say a few words about Girl Gov and the evaluation project.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So as Camilla had mentioned, so my name is Emily Resco, and I am the Girl Gov Program Manager for the Women and Girls Foundation. So recently, as Camilla had said, so we participated in an evaluation lab cohort. It was their first ever cohort through APOST in partnership with the University of Pittsburgh. And last week was our closing ceremony, so I was able to kind of present my findings. And so as Camilla had said, so we evaluated, my focus was evaluating how GirlGov builds early civic power in our middle school cohort and how programming can be strengthened to actually deepen our impact. So as I included on my slide, so why is this important? So general research shows that early civic identity formation shapes long-term engagement with civic like topics. So in other words, if students encounter these civic topics for the first time ever within GirlGov, then that means that our program is actually functioning as a critical access point to democracy and to civic education for these students. So this evaluation helps us better understand how well we're achieving our goals and also where we might improve or expand our impact. So I used three main methods of collecting data for this evaluation. So first and foremost, retrospective surveys. So asking students to think back on where they learned this specific information, whether that be from their family, their friends, or through school, through GirlGov. Um, and then also activity-based tools. So the students didn't even know that they were being evaluated. Those are the best kinds. So using trivia, they love competition, different check-in methods, and then also pre and post session reflection. So rosebud thorns. So like, what are you struggling with? What do you grasp really well? And maybe areas of growth. So we had three main findings from this evaluation cohort. Number one is that many students entered our GirlGov program with little to no prior knowledge of civic topics, making our program, like I said, a critical first access point to the civic education. Secondly, students reported an increased leadership skills and also confidence in just speaking up and using their voice, questioning ideas, and sharing their perspectives. And then lastly, interactive activities and reflective discussion. It really helped us in meeting students where they were and strengthening both understanding and also comfort with these complex topics that they're learning for the first time. And so this actually really helps us too in looking ahead. So we're going to continue expanding this early civic exposure and expanding our middle school reach, and using more responsive student-centered programming to meet the needs of each cohort and community, because GirlGov absolutely is not a one size fits all. So approaching different schools differently is pivotal in actually meeting students where they're at.
Thank you so much, Emily. Um, you said a lot about our programming, and I love that. And I love the fact that we're really, really looking at how we're evaluating our programs because that is really important to demonstrate change. All right, so here's a few photos of our Girl Govers in action. So these are more of our middle school programs. Part of what we do, so we meet with our students every single week. For me, having high touch programs across multiple years is going to be how we can affect the most change. So starting as early as possible is going to be important, and also keeping those touch points as our young people matriculate through their youth experiences within school, and then also through either college or post high school grad experiences. Right now, we're also really pushing the mentorship portion of our program by reaching out to our past GirlGov graduates, seeing where they are within their profession. And what we want to do is have our past GirlGov graduates be mentors to our immediate GirlGov graduates in high school. And then we also have high schoolers meeting with our middle schoolers so that the high schoolers can also be mentors to the middle school. So at each level, there is a near peer mentor, and there are multiple touch points and multiple spaces where our young people and individuals feel supported. Community is going to be hugely important. It's hugely important when you are doing social justice advocacy work, and it's just hugely important to support one another. And we're hoping that over time, our program is going to just create this huge ecosystem of support across Pennsylvania and beyond Pennsylvania. Our middle schoolers really focus on our middle school program really focuses on building up our students. And so we take them on field trips to see things that are outside of their neighborhood. We make sure that they have lots of different experiences that are different than what they would get from day to day. Emily, I'll tag you in to talk a little bit about those experiences at the middle school level.
Sure. So just recently, we took the students to FIPS to learn more about environmental justice. So that was part of their environmental justice unit. And I think something that would be even more helpful is for me to go over sort of the specific units that the Girl Gov middle schoolers cipher through all through the school year. So we have 8 different units that's broken down monthly. Um, this just helps us in, I think breaking it down monthly is helpful in terms of digestion for the middle schoolers. So one of the first things we did is putting the I in civics. So it's kind of like scratching the surface of voting, introducing different advocacy and leadership, and we had a few guest speakers for that as well. Reproductive rights. So we focus on women's rights, bodily autonomy. We had visits from Planned Parenthood and the bodily autonomy shop, I believe is what it's called. That was for our Girl Gov High School cohort. And then building bridges. So this is focused on partnerships, sisterhood, and our connection with that was actually Girl Gov High School. So the pictures that you see now on your screen. So our Girl Gov High Schoolers actually served through this unit as our mentors. So the girls got to connect with one another and kind of just like resource sharing and just a support system. And then environmental justice is also a big unit that we have. So we introduce them to recycling, climate justice, different climate heroes. And then also Black History Month, we have a whole unit on that as well. So focusing on Black women who paved the way, civil rights, protests and power, and also celebration through different art and culture, especially as it pertains to Pittsburgh. And then that shifts into our next unit, which is Pittsburgh Proud. So this sort of explores different Pittsburgh specific things such as Pittsburgh art. And then we're actually in this unit right now, and I'm hoping to take them to the August Wilson Center here soon. We also are attending the Illusions Museum as well because a lot of our students had never been there before and we've heard great things, so I'm very excited. We're also going to have a STEM learning unit as well as part of our trip, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then lastly, our last unit, we close out with a U Rocks. Unit, which is it's focused on the rock study if you're familiar. So essentially like self-esteem, confidence growing, and goal setting, all inspired through the rock study. And the different partners that we form and the different guest speakers that we bring in or the field trips that we take them on all connect to these specific units.
Thank you so much, Emily. I think you all can tell that both Emily and I really love our program and we can say so many words. I'm going to actually try to speed through the rest of this so that we can share and you all can just ask questions on things that I have missed. As I said before, we also give out grassroots. We have a grassroots grant making program. Those grants generally are around $1,500. They can get up to $5,000, but they're usually $15 or $2,000. And right now that program is on pause, so I will skip that. We've got some really wonderful upcoming programs. So we've got a free webinar on paid family and medical leave. That is going to be on March 19th at 5:30. So you'll get more information about why paid family and medical leave is important. You'll get some tools, and then hopefully we can all do a little bit of advocacy together. And the registration link is here. I'll also share this presentation or this slide with our friends at the Forbes Funds to share with you if you would like to register. We're also going to be at the Building Power for Gender and Racial Justice in Pittsburgh program. And that's not a program put on by us, but we will be there. I'll be there again talking about paid family and medical leave and other gender justice issues. And then the Women and Girls Foundation is also part of a coalition of organizations that practices education through film. So we've got the Just Films screening coming up, and our newest film will be Practice the Movie. And that's really talking about, actually, I won't talk about that. And that's it. So thank you so much. Really appreciate being here and having an opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do. WGF is a small and mighty team, and we do a lot, and we love to talk about it. So ask us any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camilla and Emily. Not only the importance of programs, but like the passion that you both have for this work is so clear just from hearing you speak this morning. I didn't see any questions come into the chat, but I would absolutely encourage folks as I turn it over to Kayana in just a second to speak about Girls Inc. to please connect with Camilla and Emily, specifically around the resources that are statewide in terms of civics education and the things that apply across our sector. Even if you don't do direct work with youth, all of these issues intersect and they're all extremely important. So please, please, please reach out. And with that, Kayana, are you in a place where you can share your screen?
Yes. One second.
Awesome.
Make sure I do this correctly and with sound.
Perfect.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaylana McGowan. I am the program director here with Girls Inc. of Greater Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for having us here. Okay. All right, so let's get started. I have a short video. It's about a minute long. Hopefully it plays correctly. Can everyone hear?
Ready or not, here they come. The new generation of problem solvers, innovators, and greatness is here, and there is no stopping her. Not her or the 120,000 Girls Inc. members just like her. Girls who are strong, smart, and bold, with determination, drive, empathy, confidence. Girls who lift each other up and are forging their own paths forward. They're everything they set out to be and nothing you expect them to be. They are strong in their own right, but with a community of Girls Inc. mentors who support them and equip them with the skills to succeed, they will be undeniable. Our job is to make sure everyone recognizes the potential she already has and to give her opportunities to let it shine. You might not know her yet, but you will. Because with your support, she'll be the next doctor, scientist, CEO, engineer, educator, leader. These girls are well on their way to changing the world, whether you're ready for them or not.
Okay. All right. So Girls Inc. of Greater Pittsburgh is primarily a girls leadership program that works in schools and communities throughout the Greater Pittsburgh area. Through direct service and advocacy, we equip girls with the knowledge and skills to effect positive change in our lives to become the leaders that will change the world, as you can see in our video. Girls Inc. has been working with and on behalf of girls for over 160 years. We are the longest girl serving agency for mentorship. This experience has taught us quite a few things about, I'm sorry, this experience has taught us quite a few things, but one thing is clear that Girls Inc. experience changes the trajectory of girls' lives and prepares them for long life success. Our mission is to inspire girls to be strong, smart, and bold. Our values are to recognize and support the strength in every girl, respect the dignity of each human being, and demonstrate genuine care and concern for the well-being of others, understand and appreciate diversity, embrace inclusiveness, and advance equity, drive for results anchored in integrity and accountability, and collaborate for impact. And our vision is power for girls in equitable society. And here's just a little picture. I love this picture, so I had to include it in here. So Girls Inc. of Greater Pittsburgh is one of the 74 affiliates in the US and Canada area. This number is currently growing. I believe we're now at 76. Each of the affiliates operate independently, but all of us have access to a national resource for research-based programming and through partnership in developing new initiatives and supports for girls. All of the program leaders would get together every single month for a large program call where we come together and we just share resources and we talk things through about programming or hiring techniques or whatever the case may be. And we also do an intense every single month training so that way we can continue to build out our programs for our girls. Although we are Girls Inc. of Greater Pittsburgh, that wasn't always our name. Formerly, we used to be known as Strong Women, Strong Girls, and we were a part of Strong Women, Strong Girls for 22 years. That is where I had the opportunity to work with Christine. Strong Women, Strong Girls was founded by Lindsay Hyde at Harvard University in 2004. After steadily growing over the years, we grew from enrolling 35 girls to more than 600 girls served by 180 mentors from 6 different colleges. We remained steady in this impact until 2024, when Girls Inc. National approached us and we joined forces to bring even more programming to our girls. Our sister city, Strong Women, Strong Girls Boston, also joined their affiliate, and they're also known as Girls Inc. of Boston and Lynn. This transition provided us the capacity to expand our reach and to support more girls throughout perhaps what may be our most challenging years. So we are proud to say that we are also expanding rapidly. This year alone, we added in middle school programming, and next year we will be moving into high school and more rural areas. And I will talk more about our school-based programming and our community-based program. So we base our programming on three specific impact areas, which is strong, smart, and bold. Our strong program focuses on girls living out their healthiest lives, both physically and mentally. And here's a little bit of what we oversee. We talk about substance abuse prevention, healthy sexuality, and mind and body. And in program, we're building self-esteem that's rooted in identity, not appearance, the ability to set boundaries, emotional regulation, helping young people understand health and wellness. And also, it shows up by teaching our girls to say no confidently, participating without fear or embarrassment, understanding their bodies and safety, and just celebrating who they are. Next, we have our Operation Smart. Here we focus on STEM, literacy, academic success, and support. And what this means is critical thinking, academic persistence, financial literacy, and problem solving. And what this looks like in program is girls trying again without getting something wrong, asking thoughtful questions, engaging in STEM and money lessons, which I did not include pictures, but I do have pictures. This past week, they did a money, I believe it was called Money Moves, where it was a financial literacy for young people that was for grades 3 through 5. And there they were learning about financial literacy in a fun, like Monopoly way. So they talked about wants, needs, what life happens, what that may look like, whether that is they broke their favorite headphones and they have to come out of pocket $5 or $10, or they want a book and they have to help their parents around the house and earn an extra couple bucks. So they really enjoyed that lesson, and I do have pictures to share from that one. And also just seeing themselves as capable learners. And during this model, we are building a growth mindset, confidence and skills, or I'm sorry, confidence in math, science, literacy, decision-making skills, and future planning. And our last and final impact area is our BOLD programming. This emphasizes various life skills that focus on economic literacy, leadership and community action, media literacy. Project BOLD strengthens our girls' abilities to live stronger or safer lives while advocating against violence issues. And finally, our BOLD program emphasis on post-secondary readiness. So what this means is leadership, advocacy, voice, and courage. And what this looks like in program is girls raising their hands, disagreeing respectfully, taking initiatives and speaking up for themselves or others. And we do that through public speaking, having them challenge their uncomfortableness, leadership in small or big ways, and self-advocacy. And so, like I said, we have two main branches that our strong, smart, bold impact areas feed into. The first, which are our school-based programs. Right now, this is for our elementary and middle school programming. Girls in third through fifth grade and grades 6 through 8, they meet once a week for 90 minutes with their college mentors from 7 different chapter universities throughout the Pittsburgh area. In this program, the curriculum focuses on one of the strong, smart, bold theme per week with a total of 20 weeks during the program year. We also take our girls on field trips and host several guest speakers throughout the program year, especially in the spring. Currently, our college mentors are preparing for field trips. I believe upcoming we have next week, which is Carlo and Pitt. They'll be on campus with a full day of activities and learning. Usually the girls, they come for breakfast, they eat in a cafeteria, they spend all day on the campus learning in the big classrooms, which they really seem to enjoy. There's tons of different other organizations that come and help facilitate this event. And they also get the opportunity to go back into the cafeteria and eat lunch, which they seem to really enjoy, like the ice cream there. So yeah, we have 6 of those coming up this semester. Here is a current list of our program sites, along with the chapters that they correspond to. We try to keep these sites within a reasonable distance to make it possible for the college mentors to participate in our program. But as you can see, our Robert Morris, they are more geared towards outside of the Pittsburgh area. including the Aliquippa Elementary. In the fall, we officially piloted middle school due to a high demand. So far, we've been able to take on 4 sites in 2016, and we've added 3 more since the start of this semester. Many of these schools already have our elementary programs, so we have the ability to serve those girls for up to 5 years in one location. Another branch of our Girls Inc. of Greater Pittsburgh program is our Eureka program. This is a STEM-based program that we will pilot this summer with 30 plus middle school girls in the Hill District. This program emphasizes educational, professional, and personal development for all the girls involved. And our last branch of programming is our Strong Leaders program. This connects our college mentors to various professional women in the community through one-on-one mentoring to help bridge the gap between gaining their degree in school life to adjusting in the life in the workforce. So last part of this, I just want to review some numbers and our outcomes from this year. We frequently survey our communities to make sure that programs we're providing is engaging, appropriate, and fun for the girls. When we asked our community partners what they wanted to see as we develop new programming, 89% of them said that they know girls would be interested in program that helps maintain anxiety and stress. So nearly half of our girls in elementary school were anxious about middle school program middle school's schoolwork being heavier. 100% of our community partners agreed that there is a high need for programs to assist students with conflict resolution and problem solving. So if they're interested in program that continues to keep girls' confidence and positive self-esteem as girls enter through middle and high school. And this is just an average. We typically have about 40 to 43 sites at any given school year. I believe this year we did have about 43. In the fall of this year, we have 432 girls participate in our programming. It's our goal to keep confidence high in the girls. So as of 80% express high confidence in their self-image and abilities. And just some more statistics. And here are our college mentors. They are really the backbone of them. I'm not sure if anyone is aware, but majority or all of our college mentors are volunteers. And so without them, we cannot do this work. So in the fall of 2025, we had 198 college women volunteer with us. We've had 7 university partnerships. Every year we hold 2 mentor summits where we bring all of our college women together for a day of learning and just networking. And over college chapter, I'm sorry, our college chapter mentors reported spending over 9,000 hours of volunteering for the program in some capacity in the fall of 2025. And here goes some more of our mentor highlights. I truly learned so much being a part of this organization. I feel that my inclusivity knowledge has grown strongly and my leadership skills have strengthened, and that was a University of Pittsburgh mentor. Like we said, we survey mentors, we survey our families, our students, and pretty much anyone that we can think of just to make sure that we're serving how they would want us to serve. And we do have other opportunities for engagement. So some of those are to volunteer to be a college mentor, or you can sign up to be a strong leader, or you can volunteer at other events over the course of the year. And if you have any questions, you can contact the program team, and I listed our email below. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayana, and thank you both, the Women and Girls Foundation and Girls Inc. teams for coming on this morning. I saw a question from Nancy in the chat or requesting kind of the major difference between the two organizations. Nancy, before I turn it over to Camilla and Kayana, did you, by the end of the conversation, get a feel for what some of those differences and similarities were? I just want to make sure. Oh, you're muted, Nancy. Oh. There we
It
go.
seems to me that they enhance each other, but I don't know that I see any major differences.
Gotcha. Camilla, Kayana, would you mind responding to Nancy's question?
Sure. So, some of the reasons or some of the things that I think are slightly different are dropped into the chat there. So, WGF really focuses on systems change. WGF also focuses more in that civic space. We do think that mentoring and having some of the same sort of program values that Girls Inc. has is important to be able to build folks that are really truly civically engaged. So, that is definitely a crossover. I think the thing that was different between our two organizations before Girls Inc. became Girls Inc. was that Girl Gov really focused on high school. And then I started Girl Gov Middle School in 2023. And then I had no idea that Girls Inc. was going to become Girls Inc. and then also start on middle school. I specifically wanted to have that middle school age range because to me, when I came into the space, I identified that as a gap in programming. So Girls Inc. focusing really on elementary school, Girl Gov focusing on high school, and then in the middle, there seemed to be nothing. And so that was my impetus and my reasoning for jumping into the middle school space. And so I think those are some of the same differences, but I think are some of the differences, but I think you have identified that we could really, really maybe stand to work together with one another and see how we can amplify each other's program. And Kayana, I'll let you give your perspective.
Yeah, I also think Camilla much summed it up when she talked about how they serve the community in a larger aspect, taking, advocacy to the next level. We teach our girls in-house how to advocate for themselves with just providing like direct support. That is really like our main focus is direct mentoring. We do group mentoring. But also, we have other areas that we focus on. We talk about confidence, we talk about financial literacy, advocacy. We have a really big STEM portion that we are honing into. So I think we cover more just outside of like that civic advocacy that women and girls focus on.
I think it's a great question because we get questions all the time from folks who are interested in volunteering or donating or being on boards of organizations. And so a lot of times in the nonprofit sector, and I think it's honestly becoming more pervasive with things like ChatGPT kind of tuning how we talk about our work. There are so many nuances that are important in conversations like this. And I'll jump on the advocacy train as an example. The difference between self-advocacy and engagement in democracy are completely different, but we refer to both of them as advocacy in terms of programming and the types of tools and everything that get adopted, especially for young women. And so I think there's a lot of value in hearing from such similar organizations, but also emphasizing those nuances and those differences because for somebody who, like I said, wants to support in a specific way or get their child involved in a program, those are the nuances that make or break their experience in terms of meeting their expectations and making sure that, they're passing on the skills and the opportunities, the way that, the way that they're intending when enrolling. And Julia has a question in the chat. Would your organizations consider partnering in an after-school program capacity based in Homestead? Do you have capacity to bring your programming to partner sites, or do participants typically need to come to your location? Camilla, since you presented first, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. So I think broadly the answer is yes. And I think, you know, either of our organizations would be wonderful. I think it's important that we all try to support and lift one another up. There can never be enough out of school time opportunities for our young people, especially middle school. And I want to hammer that home is because middle school is that place where we can lose our students. So they've been, doing really, really well in elementary school. They get to middle school, and parents sometimes are like, hey, you're old enough to stay home alone. You're old enough to do all of these things. There's a lot of external pressure that comes along and challenges our middle school students. And then when they get to high school, they might not be able to They might have become so derailed in middle school that they're not able to be their best selves in high school. So I just want to say that there is just an opportunity for us to continually amplify and continually work to make sure that there is a robust opportunity for middle schoolers to engage. So I'm sure that both of us would love to engage. I noticed that we are both in Homestead. So both Girls Inc. and Girl Gov are in the Propel schools. And our high school, because high schoolers are a little bit more autonomous, they're coming to us from a broader footprint. So they drive to us and we meet at the CCAC campus. Part of the reason why we meet at CCAC is making sure that students are able to, if they're interested in going to college, that they can really take advantage of a wonderful program like CCAC that is more affordable and is supported by lots of community supports. So, but our middle school is a push-in program because middle schoolers typically don't drive. So we either partner with an existing after school or we partner with a school itself. And so broadly, yes.
And yes, we would definitely love to partner. We are outside of just being in the Propel schools out that area, we are also in Park and what is the other elementary out there? I'm blanking on the name. I apologize. So we, yes, Barrett. So we are already in those two elementaries as well. And so yeah, we would definitely love to expand. And we do typically go to the program sites, whether it's a community center or an elementary or middle school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the questions, Julia and Nancy. Christine, go ahead.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was just going to add, I'm getting a sense too that if you think about it this way as a like a journey or a timeline or spectrum, from my experience working with Girls Inc., at least in Strong Women, we're starting at third through fifth grade. And it's like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs type thing. Like first you need to understand yourself, your identity, and feel safe in your environments and those things. And then it's almost sort of as they evolve, they step into this space that Women and Girls Foundation creates for them where they can truly advocate not only for themselves but for others and at this societal level. It's systems change and things like that. I wasn't sure if that spoke to both of you from what I've experienced with both organizations.
Yeah, I think that that definitely describes it. And like I said, I think we can definitely work with one another. And I'm sure we will be exploring ways to be able to do that. And yes, I called that out, that continuum of care. So elementary, middle school, high school, post high school, and even into early career professionals. I think all of that is super important.
Yes, thank you, Camilla. I th when you mentioned about why you all started the middle school program, I think that's such an important point, as we have these great programs that are for a couple years and then, something happens. That's where students fall through the cracks. That's where these things happen. And so having organizations like yours recognize those gaps is huge, especially to the other organizations that are working so hard to make progress. So really appreciate your work.
Cindy, go ahead. And this will be our last question, just so we cut at the hour.
Hi. I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about the STEM programming and to kind of maybe throw a possible program idea at you. Not even a program, but just a concept. I've been working with nonprofits in technology for 26 years now. And so going from being the only woman in computer science classes in the advanced classes in the 1990s to where I am today. And I'm still watching, they call it the tech brosphere. You don't see an equivalent tech cis sphere as a word. So there's some social justice in the STEM arena that still needs to happen. And there's probably a whole lot of big tech money that could be tapped to potentially do something. So are you doing anything in your STEM programs to get these girls to realize that they can start tech startups, they can do tech leadership? Is there anything going on like that yet?
So our STEM program, it is called Eureka. This will be our first pilot. So
Oh,
although we are still in like very, very much like infancy stages of it. We have not tapped into that. So I would be more than happy to like learn more about that. If you can share your email, we can connect about that.
Sure.
Outside of the basics about like STEM and um, whatnot, we really haven't had the opportunity to give it more of like the, I guess, true attention that it needs.
Thank you. I put my email in the chat. I'd love to talk sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you both again. And you'll see a pop-up on your screen if you haven't gone through it yet. It is the poll that Preeti just launched. We appreciate everyone's time this morning, particularly our friends from the Women and Girls Foundation and Girls Inc. Thank you so much for sharing your work and your passion and the incredibly important impact that you have in the community at multiple levels, and it seems to be ever expanding levels. So we appreciate you for joining us this morning. And Preeti put a couple of links in the chat in terms of our following conversations. We have our policy meeting this month on March 18th with GPNP and our nonprofit masterclass webinar on the 27th at 10 a.m. or both at 10 a.m. We're getting consistent with our programming times. So please feel free to register at those links. And everybody have a great week. And we look forward to seeing you the 18th or next month if the calls for community solutions are bringing value to you and your teams, which we hope they are.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
week.
you.
And I'm going to stay on as we're seeing poll responses come through still. Me eating a pizza. All right. Thanks, everyone.